Set in feudal Japan, where honor, duty, and loyalty to your liege lord rules above all, Shogun thrusts us into the affairs of rival regent lords and the story of the first Englishman to set foot in the country. Even though Shogun is an adaptation of the well-renowned James Clavell novel of the same name, the stories and characters are still grounded in reality and loosely based on real events and very real historical figures. William Adams was the real-life sailor who was the first Englishman to reach Japan, and he was taken in by the eventual shogun Tokugawa Ieyasu and was one of very few foreigners to become samurai. This strange partnership left a cultural impact on Japan, and centuries later Clavell pulled inspiration from it in deriving Shogun. And almost 50 years after that, we have our second TV adaptation of the novel, with this one also being a bit of a cultural phenomenon like its predecessor. And when you see what a high-quality TV show this version of Shogun is, it's easy to see why. The characters are very unique and well acted, the setting is incredibly charming, and the whole season is a visual treat. We'll dive a bit deeper into how Shogun was able to capture people's hearts, but first let us set the stage for the events of Shogun. And we're keeping this whole review free of any big or even medium spoilers, because we want you to go watch Shogun for yourself. After the death of the previous shogun, Japan is ruled by a council of regents in the stead of the heir that's too young to rule. Although they were tasked with keeping the throne warm for the child until he comes of age, the ambitions of several members of the council lead to unrest and political maneuvering. It's at this time that an English crew and their pilot, John Blackthorne, wash ashore in a prefecture belonging to Yoshii Toranaga, one of those regent lords. Toranaga seeks to use Blackthorne in his political games, and Blackthorne seeks to find a way to survive in this strange land. Mariko-sama, a vassal of Toranaga, is tasked with translating for Blackthorne, and as she never leaves his side, the two inevitably grow close. Sitting in opposition to Toranaga on the council is Lord Ishido, who's made an alliance with the mother of the heir-in-waiting. They seemingly aim to make a play for power and thwart any designs Toranaga has to stand against them. Shogun is a character-driven story that transports you to what feels like a different world, as John Blackthorne, the character that is essentially our audience stand-in, is thrown headfirst into this vastly different culture. The setting of a romanticized feudal Japan in the 1600s is charming, and none of us here have lived in 17th century Japan, but it all looks just about perfect. The sets look and feel incredible, and it's obvious how much time they put into every little detail. And even though we all have preconceived ideas about what Japanese culture was like at this time, Shogun still finds a way to make this setting feel familiar, yet alien at the same time, allowing us to recognize Japan as we expect it, yet also getting to experience how foreign it would have felt through the eyes of John Blackthorne. All these carefully manicured sets and the pretty costumes become even more appreciated when we see them through some fantastic cinematography. They use dynamic, innovative shots to make even the more mundane scenes feel alive and meaningful. They even use this very subtle kind of fisheye lens to make it feel like we're peering directly into the past, which is just perfect for this show. Just all around, every aspect of the visual storytelling of this show was great. The cinematography, the sets, the costumes, everything was just incredible. The characters are interesting, and over the course of these 10 episodes, we end up with a pretty full picture of who everyone is, how they operate, what they hope to accomplish, and how far they're willing to go. Toranaga becomes especially intriguing as his plans, known only to him, start to be unveiled. You even begin to question his decisions and whether or not he really is as honorable a ruler as we've been led to believe. It's still fairly ambiguous by the end, and it's a sign of a well-written character who we're supposed to see as living in the shades of gray. Blackthorne, the Anjin, doesn't have that same level of ambiguity, although his wavering goals offer something in the way of being a compelling character. But he's largely a stand-in for the audience, viewing this new and strange Japanese culture through foreign eyes. He spends most of the season learning this unique culture and how to survive in this new world. Mariko goes through a distinct journey of her own as a character caught between what she wants and what she's honor-bound to do. The shame of her family's past and reputation serve as a constant pull for her to take her own life, while her loyalty to Toranaga prevents her from acting on her own wishes. She references several times the eightfold defense she's learned to build in her own mind in order to suppress her own thoughts and desires in favor of what her lord and Japanese society require of her. And while certain developments in Mariko's story can be frustrating for us to see, they serve to make it clear to the audience that we're dealing with their world, where honor and duty come before your sense of self. And really the whole cast did a stellar job bringing their characters to life and making them memorable. There wasn't too much in the way of action, something that I'm sure a lot of people were holding their breaths for. But that's just the nature of this story, as it was with the novel. Putting the show mostly in Japanese was the right choice as well, as it's another tool to help immerse you in this world. And I think that's really what Shogun did best. It completely immersed you in this place and this period of time through its masterful world building, which coincidentally was something the original Shogun novel was highly praised for. Unsurprisingly, we're giving Shogun the certified GreatWatch label and recommending you watch it for yourself, if you haven't already. And we're far from alone in enjoying the show. Now for the elephant in the room and why Shogun is a bittersweet show for us. If you're unaware, this first season is all she wrote for Shogun, or more accurately, he wrote. The show leaves off at the same place the novel does, and most signs are pointing toward keeping this as just the limited series it was imagined as. So it's sweet in the sense that you get to take this immersive dive into the world of Shogun and become well acquainted with its dynamic characters, and the show ends right where the novel does. But it's honestly a bitter pill to swallow that this is likely all we'll get from Shogun, because the show absolutely leaves you wanting more, much more. Some involved in the show's production have made some comments alluding to the fact that a potential season 2 could be on the table depending on fan reception, but most others involved have pretty much said that they're happy with where Shogun ends and there's no real plan to go any further. And while I'm almost always a fan of leaving the source material where it is, I do see Shogun as a story and setting that's worth exploring further. There's plenty of real-world history before and beyond the events of the novel that could be adapted, and it's not hard to read the room on this show and see that people are generally loving it. Of course, they would run into the Game of Thrones problem, where the source material has been used up and the showrunners would have to venture out on their own, unable to lean on Clavell's incredible writing. And in my opinion, if they committed to bringing in some kick-ass writers who have a knack for adapting history into palatable drama, I think this is one of those rare instances where I wouldn't mind seeing them push on ahead into uncharted territory. The setting, the characters, the real history, it's all great and worthy of rolling the dice in my opinion, because there's something special here if they can do it right. Do you think they should try and strike out on their own and tell more stories in the world of Shogun? What did you think of the show if you've seen it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you haven't already, hit that all-important thumbs up if you liked the video, and consider subscribing to HateWatchers for reviews of other current shows and movies. Thank you for committing Sudoku with us today, and we'll catch you on the next one.